Hey guys, what's up? Today I want to talk to you guys about the Unholy Death Knight in PvP in World of Warcraft Legion patch 7.1.5. Unholy has been a class that back in the day used to be very powerful, especially with necrotic strikes and the amount of spread pressure that we had with diseases. The last few expansions and patches, Unholy hasn't been as good. It's been pretty bad actually in PvP. But with the recent changes in patch 7.1.5, Unholy is actually viable again, and if played right, can even be mid tier or even a tier 1 class. Now, I would like to talk to you guys about some abilities that I have that make the class actually hurt in Arena. So take a look in the level 56 honor talents. I usually go with Ebon Fever, which makes Virulent Plague deal 20% more damage in half of the duration. So, generally playing Unholy, your role in the arena is not so much to apply huge amounts of burst damage like a Frosty Cave, but to apply consistent pressure, especially with your diseases. Usually all the matches, your highest damage dealer will be Virulent Plague, and this applies a lot of pressure because I will get to it later in our level 60 tier. In the level 57 tier, we have Blighted Rune Weapon, which makes your next 5 auto attacks infect your target with 2 festering wounds. This is also very important because when you engage in battle, especially in 3v3, you would want to have that ability active so you get up to 8 festering wounds as soon as possible without wasting runes so you can necrotic strike after. In our level 58 tier, we take Clawing Shadows, which replaces Scourge Strike, and it makes your Scourge Strike have a 30-yard range and deals 126k shadow damage and causes one festering rune to burst. Alright, so this talent, it's also very essential talent to the build because there are so many classes now in PvP that can kite you very easy. And usually they don't expect you to be able to attack targets while you're rooted within 30 yards. And another important thing with this ability is that you can attack through bop. That's nice because maybe you might be close to a kill, but the target gets bopped. But little do they know that you can hit through it and end up getting the kill. In our level 60 tier, we take Debilitating Infestation, which makes Outbreak reduce the movement speed of all affected enemies by 50%. This goes to taste. I usually prefer this over Asphyxiate because Asphyxiate has a 45-second cooldown. Yet, you have a pet stun, and you have a pet charge when your pet is enraged. And I honestly like Debilitating Infestation because it provides a little bit more annoyingness, you could say, especially if you fight double melee. Usually, you want to have your disease on everybody for maximum pressure, and as long as you have those diseases, their movement speed will be reduced every time you use Outbreak, and you don't have to waste a global applying Chains of Ice. Now, for a level 75 tier, this varies between Spell Eater and Corpse Shield. Usually in most games I take Corpse Shield because for the next 10 seconds, 90% of the damage you take is transferred to your ghoul. If your ghoul is slain while the spell is active, it can't be resummoned. So basically for 10 seconds, if you coordinate with this, with your healer, you can activate Corpse Shield when the enemy is bursting, and your healer can put like a Helium Absorb on your pet or something like that to keep it up, and you will take very, very little damage. So it's an excellent ability, and I recommend it. Now, Spell Eater is also good if you face a lot of dot cleaves and dot comps, like Affliction Lock, Balance Druid, because it will make your AMS 20% larger and last 5 seconds longer. That's very good, especially when used with anti-magic zone, which reduces all spell damage by 60% while you stay inside the zone. For level 90 tier, we take Infected Claws, which makes your Ghoul's Claw attack has a 35% chance to cause a festering wound on the target. This is a great ability because you always have your ghoul attacking the same target you are. And every time you enrage your ghoul, it makes the ghoul's claw ability AoE, so it applies AoE festering wounds on the target. That's excellent. On our level 100 tier, we take Soul Reaper. It's a strike that hits an enemy's soul for 300k shadow damage, afflicting them with Soul Reaper for 5 seconds. Bursting a festering wound on an enemy afflicted by Soul Reaper grants 7% haste for 15 seconds, stacking up to 13 times. The reason we take this talent is because it synergizes very well with your Apocalypse ability. Usually, the ideal opener for DK is to spread diseases, use Blighted Rune Weapon, so your auto attacks apply Festering Wound. Once you get 8 Festering Wounds, you enrage your pet, you throw your Gargoyle out, you apply a Soul Reaper to the target, you Apocalypse, and immediately spam Necrotic Strike after that. The amount of pressure that you will put out is absolutely crazy. You will force cooldowns. You're guaranteed to force cooldowns, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at the honor talents. Here it varies. I personally like Trinket, right? Because sometimes you might be close to a kill and you might not have Trinket up, or maybe if you take Gladiator's Medallion, you can actually Trinket, clutch Trinket the CC and get a kill or get a peel if needed. I take Hardness, and some games I take Reinforced Armor, but I never use Sparring. In the third tier, some games against casters I take AMZ, which places an anti-magic zone for 10 seconds that reduces spell damage taken by the party or raid members by 60%. Excellent talent. And depending on how good you are, I would also recommend Dark Simulacrum, which places a word on an enemy that persists for 12 seconds, triggering when the enemy next spends mana on a spell, and allowing the Death Knight to unleash an exact duplicate of that spell against non-players absorbs some harmful spells. Okay, so this ability, if you see that a druid is casting Cyclone, for example, and you're able to get a Dark Simulacrum on them, you'll be able to take the clone. And if used properly, that clone can be an extra CC for your team, either to peel or to set up for a kill, because they won't be expecting it. Same thing, you could use this on the polymorph. If I'm not mistaken, you used to be able to take Paladin Avenging Wrath with this too, and it would greatly increase your damage. But it all depends on how well you deal with the ability. In our next tier, we have Decomposing Aura, Heartstop Aura, and Necrotic Aura. I personally like Necrotic Aura, which increases all magic damage the enemy takes by 8%. This is very good, especially if you're playing with classes that use a lot of spell attacks, like Red Paladins, Enhancement Shamans, any type of caster, right? Heartstop Aura, I used to enjoy this ability, but I personally like Necrotic Aura. And we have Decomposing Aura. This is a good aura to use, especially when you run Arthur's Cleave and the other DK is using Necrotic Aura. This aura makes all enemies within 10 yards to decay, losing 3% of their max health every 2 seconds, stacks up to 5 times. So that synergizes very well with a warrior or windwalker monk, since they don't do magic damage and cannot benefit from your Necrotic Aura. You guys gotta remember that it's a team game, and your role in the comp as Unholy is to provide consistent pressure and support for your team. In our next tier, we have one of my favorite talents, and usually comes second and sometimes top in damage, which is Crypt Fever. Whenever enemies are healed while afflicted by your first rune, they take 56k shadow damage. Shadow damage is your mastery, guys. You gotta remember that. Now, this is a very, very powerful ability because as Unholy, you would want to keep at least one first rune on all the targets and your diseases on all the targets. Because let's say your disease hits someone for 100k and they get healed, they will take damage every time they get healed. So think about this for a second. You're fighting a druid team, and the druid is just putting hot on the target while you have crit fever. Every time the hot will tick, it will deal 56k damage to the target every single time. So that is by far one of the best talents in the whole honor talent selection for Unholy. It's essential to the pressure, to the playstyle, and you need this to make the class work. In our last tier, we have the only viable option, which is Necrotic Strike, a vicious strike that deals 76k plague damage and converts one first wound into a necrotic wound, absorbing the next 179k healing received by the target. So this is just like Crit Fever. It's another essential ability to the build. Basically, if you if you're during your burst, if you are going for the kill, and if you just want to keep that consistent pressure while your teammates are setting up for the kill, this ability will make it hell for any healers when synergized with Crypt Fever. The reason is that heals aren't as powerful as they used to be, and they buffed all the melee and all the caster damage, but they didn't buff heals that much. And basically, every time you necrotic strike someone, it absorbs almost 200k healing. Think about that for a second. Druids that they don't have huge heals, they depend on hots. Hots which are damaging their own teammates with Crypt Fever on top of your healing absorb. All of these abilities used together properly will allow the Unholy DK to apply maximum pressure. So there we go, guys. We have some of the talents and Arena talents. And now I would like to show you some of this damage on training damage. So if we walk over here, we press our Blighted Rune weapon, we apply our disease, we enrage our pet, we throw our gargoyle down, we do 2 pressing strikes, Soul Reaper, Apocalypse, Death Coil, and spam our Festering Strike, and Necrotic Strike, and Scourge Strike, and as you can see, the target still has pressure on it, and your Army of the Dead just deals so much damage. This is a lot of damage right here. So I hope you enjoyed the guide, and may you play the Unholy class to its full potential. We need a lot of people to stop playing Flavor of the Month Frost and start playing a class that actually requires skill. So take it easy, guys. You have a good day. Thank you.